So we've got 12 bales in place. I've got 6 more to put on that end. And just got the non-contact thermometer here. These 6 here and here have been sitting here since Monday. And today's Thursday, so they've been sitting here for 3 days. It's, I don't know, you can kind of see the sun there about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So the sun's been shining on these all day. And let's just see what the temperature is here on this tire. 102.5. So, and they feel pretty warm. Obviously they're going to be warm. Any tire sitting in the sun is going to be warm. That's nothing magical about that. 60 degrees on that side. Okay, so this is a tire bale that's sitting outside, obviously warmer on this side, soaking up the sun, and it's 40 degrees warmer on this side. Okay, and this is with radiative and convective losses. The wind's kind of, the breeze is kind of blowing, you'll probably hear in the camera, and it's radiating and it's convecting. There's convection losses as the wind blows, and if the wind's not blowing, obviously there's radiation losses. So with this enclosed in a greenhouse with no convective losses, it'll still radiate into the room, but that heat will be contained in the room, and then there won't be any convective losses at all. We'll also have styrofoam's insulation around the sides and the back, and what that'll do is, as this solar battery charges up to 102 degrees, let's just say it does that in the middle of, and it'll probably get hotter than that is my guess, in winter when the sun's low and shining through the front glass and onto this, that heat will build up. It won't allow, and heat's going to radiate out into the room, into the air. It's also going to conduct into the dirt around it, so the dirt would be a heat sink as well if we just piled dirt right against this. So we're going to put probably 4 inches, at least 2 inches, if not 4 inches of the insulation panel around this. Okay, and then we'll put a moisture barrier over that, and then we'll put dirt up against that, and that'll prevent conductive losses from this solar battery, or this heat battery, I don't know, whatever you call it, thermal battery, from conducting out into the dirt. And so if the dirt's 50 degrees and this is 100 degrees, heat's just going to conduct directly out into the dirt bank. And so that's why Mike Reynolds and his Earthship Designs, they build their tire wall, and then they put 4 feet of dirt or so, and then they put their insulation, and then they pile more dirt. And so that tire wall, and then that 4 feet of dirt, lateral measurement, 4 feet of dirt behind the tire wall, if you can imagine that, that's their solar battery, and that's what soaks up the heat and holds the heat, but it doesn't conduct into the dirt behind it. So that'll be the idea behind, and I could put some dirt around this, but I think this is going to be a big enough battery. This is about twice as wide than the typical Earthship rammed earth tires, because they're about 5 feet wide. So I think it's about twice as wide, or twice as deep, I should say. And I think it'll be enough. It's a guess though. I don't know. I don't have any science behind what I'm doing. Mike Reynolds, of course, if you build his Earthship, if he builds your Earthship for you, he's got 40 years of experience. And I think that's why he doesn't use tire bales, even though it'd go up much faster. The rammed earth tires he has 40 years of experience with. So he knows exactly how big to build them, how big to make the tires and all that kind of stuff. And then how deep to make the dirt, and how big to make the rooms, and how tall to make the windows. That's all been dialed in from doing hundreds of Earthships. Actually thousands of Earthships. So, all right, something else I learned from doing stacking these, they're irregular on top, bottom, and the sides. Obviously you want to stack these in line with each other like this, where the wires that are holding the tire bales are butted up against each other. You don't want to stack them like this, so that if the strings break, or the wires break, the tires will tend to push out. You want them butted up against each other, so the weight of the tire bales against each other, if they were all to break, which is very unlikely anytime soon, especially if they're protected from moisture and the elements and the dirt, then if they do break, they'll at least open and compress it against each other. Now, what Stacy told me was if a tire bale does break, if it's a new tire bale, they do kind of spring apart, and then you got to put them all back in place, and then the machine crushes them and you rewire them. But if they've been sitting around for a while, the tire bales, the tires just kind of tend to fall over in their crushed state. They just kind of develop a memory, and they just kind of stay like that. They don't like explode or come flying apart. And I don't know how old these tire bales are, but obviously they're old and used tires. I did hook one of these. You can see there's only 4 wires on this. I hooked this wire with my tractor right on the edge as I was trying to spin it around, and it popped it off. And you can see this tire's kind of expanded out just a little bit. It's not much compared to the other tire that has a wire on it though. And let's look at this other side. And you can see it has expanded out just a little bit. This tire has, and that tire has. So what I'll probably do is just go ahead and get some, I'm going to buy a bunch of cable anyway, 3/16 cable, wrap it around it, put a turnbuckle on it, tighten it down, and just to compress it. This is actually going to be the backside wall, so I'm not too worried about this. I might even just leave it because this is going to be the front side wall. So on another note, something else I learned is because they are all irregular and oblong, they usually, one side will be straighter than the other. And so if you look down this, you can see it's fairly straight, fairly flat. And if you look down this one, you can see that there's these 2 tires stick out here, those stick way inside. So this would be a little harder to work with as far as making a flat wall. It'll take a lot more material to make a flat wall out of it, if you're interested in a flat wall. And so I want it relatively flat anyway, so I don't have to use tons and tons of material just to try to make it look pretty smooth. And so what I went around and did on all of them, I sprayed them with some yellow paint just to mark that's going to be my flat wall, and that's the one I'm going to use, and that's the one I want to put to the inside of the building. And so you can see that one's painted, and that one's painted, and that one's painted, and none of them are super very straight, but it is the straightest side of all of them. So hopefully that'll help you if you're using these to build something, to pick out the straight side, and those 2 are pretty straight right there. All right, and what else do we need to talk about? So you've noticed I'm just catching the edge of the tire bale, lifting it with the forks, sliding a board under it, dropping it on the board, then dropping the forks, sliding the forks under. And the whole goal of that is not just so I don't dig holes like I did here, but also so I don't accidentally catch the, let's see, where's a tire bale with them sticking up? Most likely if this is down, the fork will slide along this. These are under a whole lot of tension though, and if you do put pressure on it, they'll break. And so the whole goal is to just try to keep the forks from contacting that or putting sliding pressure. And if this is down and I slide the fork under one of these and bust it, then I could bust 2 of them pretty easily. So that's why I'm lifting them up, putting a board under it, setting it on the board, sliding the forks under it, and then lifting it up. And then the same thing over here, when I set them down, I'm setting just a 4x4, just like one of these, on the ground toward the outside edge, so I can set the bale on it, push the bale in place, then lift the bale up, slide this out, set the bale down, and then go ahead and compress the bale into place. And it seems to be working pretty well. It's a lot of in and out of the tractor for a 1-person operation. If I had some help, of course it would go more than twice as fast. And so now I'm got a little enthusiastic in putting my tire bales in. My plan was to put 3 stacks, and then put this in right there on the ground, and then put another 3 stacks. So I got a little enthusiastic. I put 4. I'm not going to move them now. I'll go ahead and put this in place, and this is how this will end up. I probably could have used a smaller culvert for this little room, and I probably should have used metal. I think metal would stay a little bit cooler. Than this. And another mistake I made in buying this one was I get a double wall, thinking, oh, that'll be stronger. Well, that was dumb, because the only place the dirt's going to contact and be able to conduct heat away is here, 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 and here, instead of here, underneath this, on top of this, underneath this, on top of this, underneath this, if that makes sense. So don't get a double wall. That was dumb. I'm going to go ahead and use it because it was cheap. It's not going to be as good as a metal one, which is thinner and I think would conduct heat a little bit faster, but I don't know. Mostly it doesn't get that hot here in Colorado, in the valley here. It's about 7,500 feet. So the plan is to just be able to bring in some outside air, have it cool some. It'll be on the north side. Not that that will be much cooler, but it'll cool off some, and it'll bring in outside air that won't be as hot. So, all right. So I think that's it for now. I can't think of anything else. I'll go ahead and get a couple more bales smashed up against this one. It's going to make my piles a little irregular here. The bottom one's going to be sticking out a little further, and I'll have to fill in above this with some tires. So I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do with that, but it's doable.